Alrighty, this with people news. Okay, one more time at it. All right. Uh, just give you notice. Not attorney, not giving legal advice. Anything I say to do is just opinion. Okay, it's education, educational. Okay, no more, no less. Okay. Never look straight forward. Always look around you. Be able to protect yourself by any means necessary. Now, before the last video I said, I'm gonna kind of keep it short and sweet. Okay, but I do want to point out again, grammar. Why is it capital small? Capital. We want to be in the right jurisdiction. Capital small. Capital small. Capital small. All right, we want to be in the right jurisdiction. We want to have the correct standing. Okay, the saying. Okay, we'll go back into grammar. This all caps and all that may or may not be true. However, when you're speaking grammar, I'm gonna be on the cautious side, right? Just saying. Uh, let's go ahead and proceed forward on this.
Let's go back to the original remonstrance. What is it?
Oh, by the way, what I said earlier, Ector County. Okay. And there's the name right there is the plaintiff. And it's a case. So see if you guys can find it. I'm led to believe it'd be definitely a good read, wouldn't it? And it's definitely good writing, right?
Okay, you say, is this just some kind of who was that masked man, right? Well, one of my buddies who is actually in Washington right now has dropped his. It was actually done in what I think it was July 29th, I think was the day. But this is his. This is that stamp up in the upper right hand corner is what it looks like when you serve one of your representatives a copy of or petition of remonstrance. This is what it looks like. So we're citing the emoluments violations pursuant to the emoluments clause. There it is. So, and what of course the court has already said about that, right? We've talked about that 1,007 times. So here's the case, and my original client, whom I've been working with since we started this. So, this is the oldest one. The oldest due process dating back to before the republic was a republic. So, this is what, we talk about them being subject to due process and rules and public law and, yes, even guidance documents, right? Because they're the ones who are sitting in that position of emolument, not you, not me, not Kirk, all right? They're the ones doing it. So this is how you make those emoluments work for you. So when you go in and you want to give them some data, what is the data that is of interest to them? Well, what is your standing? An example of that is, I created this thing called E-Clause and incorporated it into the state. Okay, so I'm showing the difference between the two models that I've discovered. The one on the top right is what we recognize as the republic, the de jure republic, right? The one on the bottom right, not so much, right? There's a conflict in there somewhere. I call shit made up, right? So, and there's quite a bit of the subject matter that is relevant to, not just mine, but many of your cases as well. So some of the other things is what standing does your data has? Okay, this is key. So to be able to walk in and show, hey, look, we've already been to the higher court, and here's the standing mandated by the higher court. So, you have any problem with that? You call the judge, and they're not going to call the judge. They're going to take that and they're going to say, okay, yeah, I can verify that. So, knowing and understanding that when you're in the legislature, You have to have some legislative intent, right? Which purpose for being there? Well, if you're in the legislature, well, legislation is the job of the legislature. So what's your legislative intent? Mine is, I'm going to talk about this shit made up, this foreign power, these foreign emoluments, right? So, and this is out there. You guys, we've laughed about this and talked about this for how long now? So, one of the first most fundamental principles of making this work, right? When you're going to begin writing letters, whether they be letters of lawful notification, just a general letter, you have to learn the structure of the entity to whom you are addressing. So if you're going to address government, you're going to send them some kind of a general letter or some, remonstrance or whatever. You got to know their structure. Well, ours has 3 branches: legislative, executive, judicial. Each one of those is going to get a cover letter that goes with the general letter. Okay, I've been over this more times than not. So that's why I'm putting these things in slides for you. Maybe it'll help you guys better understand this a little bit. Because I know I'm getting government people that are sitting in those emoluments that don't know how to do this. So if you don't feel bad. They don't get it either. So,
I have a question here real quick.
Sure.
Why is the judicial and cover letter?
Cover letter is
in diploma font.
Well, let's look a little history on that, right? The diploma font, that stems way back into, going into education, right? Going back into your status and standing, right? So if you were educated, this what's now known as the diploma font was actually referred to as calligraphy back in the day when it was penned. So if you could execute calligraphy, okay, you had graduated, hence diploma, okay, and that's why it became that font. So,
does that mean the legislative and executive they're just not smart?
Well, again, because we're talking about courts being used as weapons, okay,
right?
The implication here is these guys, they think they're so damn smart, but they don't even know the history of the font known as diploma. Are you kidding me?
Well, and that's the branch that claims that they're the ones that went to law school.
Right.
They're the ones that know the law. Nobody else can know the law, because if you don't go to law school, there's no way you could know the law.
Mm-hmm.
Except for our founders said the law is supposed to be written in plain English so that the average man can read it and comprehend it.
Right. So this is kind of, I guess, call it my jab at their shit made up. So, y'all are not the only ones that know and understand what the hell the diploma font is, where it comes from in history,
right?
And why it plays such a signification in due process. For example, when you provide lawful notification back in the day, those notifications went through the newspaper, right? That was to notify the public of your, whatever it is you were going to notify them, public notice, right? So that's why most of your old school, like the Washington Post and hell, even the Warren Tribune, still uses the diploma font as the font in the title of their publication. So it's kind of interesting if you go back and even read the history on it. But so knowing and understanding that even at using using a proper font is part of proving your status, your standing, going back to, your education. I mean, whatever it is you want to point out. So, but that's actually a pretty good question, because I was going to cover that and almost forgot. So once you've entered into this thing, remember, you're here to talk about some subject matter. So stick to your subject matter. This is my subject matter because, just the way I know things, the way I've been doing business. And, oh yeah, my kid's mother said, hey, Dad, go fix this damn problem. It's broke. So Okay, this is Dad fixing it. What's the conflict here? Well, emoluments versus entitlements. Emoluments, those we know throughout the military industrial complex as subsidies, for lack of a better expression. And then this new entitlement thing showing up as these stipends, at least so much in according to Bill Barr. So there we have the two different processes at conflict: due process of law versus due process of this, all these court rules and agency policy guidance documents and all of this crap that they purport as law, which of course we know they don't have the power to make law. Period. That is in the legislature. End of discussion. That's somebody claiming exercising powers they ain't got.
I have to say, flashback, okay? And I guess in my time, I remember something about this right here, right? They put it in this box. Bar, legislature, judicial, executive, right? And maybe that's where I seen it, was this right here, okay? However, the fifth one is still the jury. The jury is to judge the facts and the law. So the jury is still in kind of the judicial branch, but it's down here, and it's its own entity right there, because we're actually the judge. The jury is. And in order to be found guilty in the republic, it had to be more than one, right? So if I was innocent, okay, all of them had to say I was innocent, okay? If I was guilty, but the evidence didn't show beyond reasonable doubt, the jury still had to be the whole jury, whether I was guilty or they just gone ahead and found me innocent. But everybody had to agree on this. And if they didn't agree, then I was automatically innocent by default. And you don't get to try me again. This is how it's supposed to work. It is better for 100 guilty men to be set free than it is one innocent to spend any time in jail. Enhances the criminal codes of Texas that you must go directly to the magistrate for that officer to make a claim of that probable cause. And then you order them to do a judge. It's not supposed to be 6, by the way. Constitutionally speaking, it's supposed to be 12. Just saying.
So that's pretty much the short version of that. So there's your conflict: entitlement or emoluments versus entitlements, and why. So, and stick to your subject matter. We all know the devil's in the details. So, my brain working a lot like this guy.
We talked about it before. Where's the nexus that ties my property to be taxed? Where's the nexus? Where's the citizen nexus for my private property to be taxed if it's not a business? When the tax code is business, commerce.
I think in terms of, mathematics and calculations, and, that's just how my brain works with reference to, assembling some form of a lawful and or correct practice or argument. Okay. We talk about those maxims of law as being the fundamental principles establishing the equation of what is -1 times -1 equaling +1, and why, and where it comes from in law. So being able to do that and break it down so simplistically was, again, this was me going back to my, original days of college, for lack of a better expression. So this is how I do what I do, and why this is so significant, because no matter how many times you run that equation, -1 times -1, you're always going to get +1. And it doesn't matter if it's hot outside, if it's cold outside, if it's on Earth, if it's on Mars, if it's on Uranus, doesn't matter. Those laws, those fundamental principles and practices never change, period. It is what it is. So,
All right. So, we're going to stop there. Hope you guys enjoyed. May do one more part 2. We'll see how it goes. Do so, we the people news. Bye, y'all.